All right. Welcome back to the fourth of fifth video on how to use Revit on the Seismic design team. And in this video, we're going to go over how to make and properly define braces. So if you guys remember properly, whenever we defined a column or we defined a beam, we had to tell Revit where the center line of that column or beam was, such that that is where we will be able to draw it, or that's where we drew it. And it's the same thing for braces. But having that center line on, say, an east elevation is kind of hard to define, since the center of your brace will be in the plane not seen here. It'll kind of be in and outside of the page. So that means you have to make a grid line in one of your plan views that you'll be able to call when you're looking at that east elevation. And just as an FYI, elevation views, you can see them on your plan views like this. So say my east elevation is the elevation that looks at my building from the right side here. So north, you can imagine from the top here, west from the side, south from the bottom. That's kind of how it works. But hey. So back to what I was saying before. To make this grid line, what you have to do is just pick one of the grid lines that we have here. So since we'll be making our brace in our east side elevation, let's pick number 3, since that's the one that the east side is looking at. Click Control C, Control V, and that makes a new grid line. Now, where do we want to make this grid line? It has to be at the center of our brace. So actually, before making it, I'll show you guys where that has to be. So, design line. Our braces will look something like this. You'll have one brace on the interior side of the column and one brace on the exterior of the column. And each of them are going to be half the width of the column, so 3/32 of an inch each, as opposed to the 3/16 that the column is. So to get to the middle of this line here, I have to go 1/8 of an inch across this beam, plus 3/64 of an inch. So half the width of the brace. So 1/8 is 8/64 plus 3, so 11/64 of an inch is how far my grid line will have to go. Control C, Control V, input that, 11/64, and there it is. My grid line is going straight halfway through my brace, and I'm very happy about that. So let's delete these design lines, since they're not very useful, and we can rename this side view here to something that will be useful for when we want to call it out when we're on our east side view. So we'll call it out E for east side view, and then exterior bracing, since it is on the exterior of our column. So capital E for east and short form E for exterior. Let's click enter, and that should do the trick. So now let's go to our east side view. And before I start using the beam, let's remember what we did for when we made the actual beams, the horizontal beams. We made a reference plane such that we could kind of trim the excess of our beam, and the same is going to go for the braces, which, by the way, are also built with the beam tool, not the brace tool. It's kind of funny how that works, but it is how we do it. So let's make this reference plane to make the perimeter of where these braces are going to be. After I'm done the reference plane, I'll show you where they have to be. All right. So the top of our brace should end at this corner here, and the bottom of our brace should end at that corner there. So let's make that. So beam tool, and this is why we made the grid line here. So whenever you use the beam tool in an elevation view, Revit will ask you which work plane you want to work in. And the one that we defined for our east side elevation was east exterior. So let's click that one. Okay. And let's draw our beam from here to here. I say draw our beam because we're using the beam tool. This is actually a brace. And as you can notice, the top of our brace ends exactly where I want it, but the bottom of our brace does not end exactly where I want it. So similarly to using or defining beams, we can go back to the user interface with property and mess with the justifications such that everything works out properly. So again, instead of uniform, I will look at moving each end independently. Let's go to start Z justification, make it bottom. Didn't have to click apply. And now you can see our brace is defined properly. So we can extend the ends out a little bit, use our cutting tool, same thing that we did for beams. There you go. There you go. And our brace should be all nice and dandy. To double check, let's go to the 3D view and see. But as you can tell, just zooming in and out, as I normally do, you can't really see where stuff ends too well. Well, here you can see that the brace that I made is too thick since it's going off the exterior, and rightfully so. I should have made this a 332 by 316. There you go. We also can't really tell if it's cut properly here. So to be able to kind of rotate around your 3D view, you hold down Shift and then right click and drag, and that allows you to rotate around your 3D model. As you can tell, our brace is halfway along the column, exactly as it should be, and it's cut properly. Therefore, we know we did a good job of that. See? Very, very nice. Very, very good. So now let's make the other brace. So back to our east elevation view, and I'll just be repeating the same thing that I did before. So a beam from the bottom here to the top over there. The top justification is all nice and dandy as always, but I'll have to mess with the bottom justification here. Therefore, I will go independent, start Z as bottom, and everything is nice and dandy in terms of that. Time to cut again, and everything should almost be done. So cut, boom, boom, and boom, boom. So looking at it on the 3D view, you'll notice that both of my braces are on the exterior side of the column, because I told Revit that when I'm looking at the east side, I wanted to use the exterior side of the column. And to move them, or at least move one of them, such that they are beside each other instead of intersecting over here, what I have to do is select one of them and then use the arrow keys on my keyboard. And that should move them, or move one of them to the correct side. So let's zoom in here. If I click the left arrow on my keyboard, you'll see it is starting to move. So I'll make it go all the way to the end of the column, and that should be good. Let's rotate around. There you go. Everything is nice and perfect. So I have both of my braces defined properly in terms of Z justification and Y justification, and both of them look amazing. So realistically, the next step, if you were not as efficient about it, you can restart this whole process for the west side view as well. But in a similar way of what we did with the beams, we can go back to our level 1 view, plan view, and use the mirroring tool again. So I'll make a design line to make our mirror. Here it is. Select one brace, Control select the other brace, and mirror it along this center line. So we have our braces on our east side view and on our west side view, all done very nice and neatly. Let's go check out the 3D view, and everything is perfect, except for what I had mentioned in the past as well. Whenever you do use the mirroring tool, your cutting no longer happens. So let's go back to or let's go to our west view and cut those as they should. I believe the reference plane, yep, even though we defined it on the east view, it is still here over on the west. So cut there, cut down here, cut over here, and cut there. Everything should be nice and dandy. Let's double check. But yeah, everything got cut amazingly. So that is how you define, build, and do everything you need to for braces in Revit. Obviously, I haven't made the north and south views, but that is the exact same process as the other two. So I'll make those on my own time, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.